Welcome to another video, and I hope you're all well. In today's video, I'm going to be going over the cockpit drill. These are the 5 safety checks that you need to do before you set off in your vehicle. It could be your instructor's car, it could be a hire vehicle. So if you're getting in that vehicle, you need to make sure all the controls are comfortable for you to drive. There's 5 checks that you need to do, the necessary checks. These are doors, seat, steering wheel, seat belt, and mirrors. So that's D.S.S.S.M, which is doors, seat, steering, seatbelt, mirrors. So let's get started. So the first one is D, which is doors. So you need to make sure all of your doors are closed properly before you set off. This includes not just only your door, but your passenger doors as well. So whether you've got doors at the back or on the front as well, you need to make sure they're all closed. It's your responsibility as a driver to make sure all the doors are closed. So for example, if you set off and one of the doors wasn't closed properly and it opened, it would be your responsibility. So I'm going to go over each one, how to check the doors and what you need to be looking out for. So to make sure that the doors are closed properly, there's various different ways that you can check this. One, you can just check your door by holding the handle and just giving it a little bit of a tug to make sure it's closed. And the other one is to make sure that this interior light has gone off as well, because if the interior light is on, that means your door might still be open. And it might even tell you on the dashboard, an indicator to tell if the doors are open. So there's different various ways of knowing if your doors are open. And like I said before, you need to make sure all doors are closed before you set off. So one way of knowing if your door is open, you can always just check by holding the door handle and giving it a tug just to make sure the door is closed properly. And another way of checking if the door's closed properly is on your dashboard. If the door is open, for example, let me just show you. If I open the door now, and if I look here, it will show me that the door is open. So this is not always the case on every car, but some cars do indicate on the actual dashboard if the door is open. Another way of checking is if your interior light is still on, that may be an indicator that your door is open. So if I close the door, and now my interior light has gone off, which is an indicator that my doors are closed. Another way to check if your doors are closed properly, you can look through your mirrors and see if your doors are in line with the bodywork to make sure that they close properly. So for example here, I'm looking through the driver's side door mirror and I can see that the door is closed properly because it's in line with the bodywork behind the back door. And I can do the same on the other side. So now I'm looking through the passenger side door mirror and I'm just making sure that it's closed properly as well, and I can tell it's in line with the bodywork, so that indicates that these doors on the left passenger side are closed as well. So what you're looking for is making sure the door bit is flush through the mirror, and it needs to be like that, nice and flush. So the next check that we need to do is the seat, and we need to adjust the seat so it's correctly adjusted, so we can press the clutch pedal all the way down and we can hold the steering wheel correctly and our back is resting properly against the seat. So let me show you how to do this. So with the seat, there's a lever just at the bottom. I need to pull up and adjust it with that to make sure it's the correct position. So this is the lever that I need to pull up first, and then I can move this seat back and forwards by pulling this lever. In some cars, it will let you adjust the seat height as well, up and down. So, for example, on this car, it's on the right hand side to adjust the seat. So this lever on this particular car here adjusts the height of the seat. So if I pull the lever up, and I can move the seat up and down to where I require it. It's also very important that you adjust your headrest so it's at the correct position. And the correct position for the headrest is basically, so the middle of the headrest should be in the middle of your head. This will minimize you getting whiplash in case you had an accident. And usually the headrest can be adjusted by a button on the side, push the button in, and then you can move the headrest up or down depending on where you need to put the headrest. Every car is different on where the button is, but you will usually find it just on the side of the headrest. The other thing that you need to be checking out for when adjusting the seat is making sure your back is at the correct position. So for example, you don't want to be laid back too far back. So let me just show you. So like this, almost like I'm sat in the living room on a recliner. You know, this is not a good position. It'll probably make you feel sleepy. And plus, you're not really kind of that close to the steering wheel where you're at a comfortable distance where you can actually turn the steering wheel properly. So that would not be the correct position. And the other example, you don't want to go too far the other way. So for example, you don't want to be like really close to the steering wheel like this. And basically just kind of sat on top of the steering wheel. This is not safe. Okay. And what you want to be doing is probably having it roundabout so your back is kind of straight and your elbows are slightly bent as you're holding the steering wheel. So you're not too stretched and you're not too close to the steering wheel, like this. The next one is the steering wheel. It's important that you set the steering wheel at the correct position and then you're holding it comfortably, 10-2 or 1/4-3 position. So to adjust the steering wheel, there's a lever here on the left hand side of the steering column. If I just pull this lever, and then I can move the steering wheel up and down, and I can pull the steering wheel out or in. So I just adjust it to where I want it. Once I've got it where I want, then I just pull the lever back in place and just check the steering wheel is firm. Also, when adjusting the steering wheel, you want to make sure it's adjusted correctly so it's not hitting your knees or your leg while you're driving. If the steering wheel is too low down, then this can happen, and that would be restrict when you're turning the steering wheel. Also, the steering wheel needs to be adjusted correctly so you can see the dials properly as well. So you want to make sure the steering wheel is at a point where you can clearly see the dials in front of you. So we've done the doors, we've done the seat, we've done the steering wheel. So what's next? The seat belt. So bring the seat belt over with your right hand, right over across your chest, clicks in, and you want to make sure there's no knots or ties. Just run your finger straight through like this, just making sure it's correct. The position of the seat belt should be in the correct position as well. So as it's going over across your chest, it shouldn't be cutting into your neck here. So for example, if you was to brake quite sharp and you went forward, it would lock the seat belt, and you don't want that cutting into your neck because that would be potentially quite dangerous. So it needs to be somewhere running across your shoulder there. So if it did lock, it would hold you in position like that. It's very important that you wear your seatbelt at all times for your own safety. Even before you actually start the engine, your seatbelt must be on. And that's the reason why we go through each one individually. For example, the doors first, then the seat, the steering wheel, the seatbelt, the mirrors. Once you've done all these things, then you can start the engine. So we've done the doors, we've done the seat, we've done the steering wheel, we've done the seatbelt, and then the next one, last but definitely not least, is your mirrors. So to adjust the mirrors, you basically just sit in the normal driving position, and then with your left hand, hold it around the mirror, so you're not actually holding the mirror, and then adjust it to where you need the mirror to be. So I would hold the mirror on the side with my left hand in my normal driving position so I can get a good view out of the back. And if I need to adjust it, so I'm not actually holding the glass, but holding the mirror on the side. And with your external mirrors, door mirrors, you can adjust these by the controls on your doors. They will vary car to car depending on where the controls are for your particular vehicle. So to adjust the mirrors on this particular vehicle, the controls are just here. So if I click this, which is on the right hand side, then I can move the mirrors by using this control, and it moves the mirror. And I want to adjust it, so basically I want it so I can see a little bit of the car and then most of what's behind me. So that could be road, trees, houses, like this. And if I want to adjust the left hand side mirror, I click this to the left and then I can move it with this. And same on the left hand side. I want to adjust it so I don't want to see too much of the car like this. I want to see a little bit of the car, but most of what's behind me, like this. So once you've done the mirrors, you are now ready to drive. So just to recap on that, so the first thing that we did was doors, then we did the seat, then the steering wheel, the seat belt, and then mirrors. And now we're ready to drive. Tell me how you'd check that the brakes are working before starting a journey. So, the brake pedal shouldn't feel spongy or slack. When you press the brake pedal, it should be firm. If you're not sure what spongy or slack feels like, it's similar to the clutch pedal. It shouldn't go all the way down like this. It should feel firm when you're pressing the brake. Also, when you press the brake pedal, your car should not pull to one side, left or right. If you feel a pull on the steering wheel, left or right, that means there may be a problem with your braking system and you need to get it checked out. Here's question 2. Tell me where you'd find the information for the recommended tyre pressure for this car and how the tyre pressure should be checked. For this question, you need to explain that you can find the correct tyre pressure for this vehicle in your car manual, which should be in your glove box, or in some cars it's on the fuel cap or the inside of the door. So when you open the door, you should be able to see a little panel telling you the tyre pressure. But generally you will find all that information in your car manual. To check how much pressure is in your tyres, you can use a reliable gauge, or you can go to a petrol station and check to see how much is in your tyres. And remember to check your spare tyre as well, and check these tyres generally when the tyres are cold, and remember to put your dust cap valves back on. Here's question 3. Tell me how you would make sure your head restraint is correctly adjusted so it provides the best protection in the event of a crash. So for this question, you need to explain that the ridged part of your headrest should be at the top of your ears or level with your eyes. And to move the headrest, there's usually a button on the side you press in and you can adjust the headrest up or down to where you need it. This will prevent you getting whiplash in case you had an accident. Here's question 4. Tell me how you'd check the tyres to ensure they have sufficient tread depth and that the general condition is safe to use on the road. So for this question, you need to explain that your tread depth should be at least 1.6 millimeters. And the tread depth should be in the centre 3/4 of the breadth of the tyre, and that's all the way around the circumference of the tyre. Also, there should be no cuts or bulges in your tyres. So if there's a cut on the wall of your tyre, or if there's a little bit of a bulge on the tyre, that means you need to get your tyres changed immediately. Here's question 5. Tell me how you'd check that the headlights and tail lights are working. For this question, you need to explain that you need to operate the lights. Sometimes you may need to turn the ignition on to operate the headlights and the tail lights. Once you've turned the headlights and tail lights on, then you go around the vehicle and check that they're working properly. You won't physically need to get out and check, as this is a tell me question. Here's question 6. Tell me how you'd know if there was a problem with your anti-lock braking system. For this question, you need to explain if there's a fault with your anti-lock braking system, a warning light should illuminate on your dashboard telling you there's a fault. And the light should look something like this. So if you see this on your dashboard and it's not going off, you need to get your vehicle checked immediately. Question 7. Tell me how you'd check the direction indicators are working. For this question, you need to explain that you need to turn the hazard warning lights on. On some vehicles, you may need to turn the ignition on first. So once you've turned the hazard warning lights on, then you go around the vehicle on the outside, check that the indicators are working properly. You won't physically need to get out and check, as this is a tell me question. Here's question 8. Tell me how you'd check the brake lights are working on this car. So for this question, there's two possible answers that you need to explain both. If you're on your own, what you need to do is find some reflective surface behind you, like a house or a shop window, something that's going to reflect the light of your brake lights. Then what you need to do, once you get that reflective surface behind you, press your foot on the brake and you should be able to see the reflection behind to see if your brake lights are working properly. Or if you've got somebody with you, they can stand behind the car when you press the foot on the brake and they should be able to tell if your brake lights are working properly. Here's question 9. Tell me how you'd check the power assisted steering is working before starting a journey. So for this question, you need to explain that the steering wheel should become a lot lighter to turn once you turn the engine on, like this. If the steering wheel is still stiff, that means there may be a problem with your power assisted steering. Here's question 10. Tell me how you'd switch on the rear fog lights and explain when you'd use them. So for this question, you need to explain, first you will probably need to turn on the ignition. Once you've turned the ignition on, turn on your dipped headlights and then find the button for your rear fog lights. And once you've turned your rear fog lights on, then there should be a warning sign on your dashboard telling you that your rear fog lights are on. And the rear fog lights should look something like this. And you should only use the rear fog lights when the visibility is less than 100 meters. Here's question 11. Tell me how you switch your headlight from dipped to main beam and explain how you'd know the main beam is on. For this question, you need to explain first, turn the ignition on and then turn on your dipped headlights. This will vary depending on which vehicle you're using. Once you've turned the headlights on, then turn on your main beam. On this vehicle, I would turn it on like this, and then there should be a warning light on my dashboard which looks like this, telling me my main beam is on. Here's question 12. Open the bonnet and tell me how you'd check that the engine has sufficient oil. So for this question, you would first explain that you need to first open the bonnet. Once you've opened the bonnet, you need to identify where the dipstick is. Once you find the dipstick, you need to pull the dipstick out, wipe it, put it back in, and then pull it back out, and it should be between the markers, maximum and minimum. Make sure when you check the oil, the engine is cool and the car is on a flat, level surface. Here's question 13. Open the bonnet and tell me how you check the engine has sufficient engine coolant. So for this question, you need to explain, first of all, you need to open the bonnet. Once you've opened the bonnet, identify where the coolant reservoir is. And then once you've identified there, you need to find out where the maximum minimum markers are. And it should be enough coolant in between them two levels. If there isn't enough coolant, then you need to top it up. And here's question 14. Open the bonnet and tell me how you check that you have a safe level of hydraulic brake fluid. First of all, you need to explain, again, you need to open the bonnet. Once you've opened the bonnet, you need to identify where the brake fluid is. And it should look something like this. Then you should see the maximum minimum markers on the brake fluid, and it should be topped up to the required amount. So that's the first part of the video, which are tell me questions. Now the next part of the video will be show me questions. So let's get started. When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you clear the rear windscreen? So on this particular car, I push this stick away from me and that clears the rear windscreen. When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you'd wash and clean the front windscreen? So on this car, I'd pull the stick on the right towards me and that cleans the front windscreen. When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you'd switch on your dipped headlights? So I just turn this to the right and this is the symbol for the dipped headlights, and there you go, the headlights are on. When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you'd set the rear demister? So there you go, press the button for the rear demister and this is what the rear demister looks like, and there you go, the rear demister is on. When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you'd operate the horn? So just make sure before you do press the horn to make sure there's no one around that you're going to startle. So I'll just look around, it's clear. There you go. When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you would demist the front windscreen? So I just turn on the front windscreen and this is what the symbol should look like in your car. When it's safe to do so, can you show me how you'd open and close the side window? There you go. Well, thank you for watching. That's the end of this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so and give it a thumbs up. That will really help. And you take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much.